Okay, so number 2 would be bureaucracy and paperwork. They're so far behind. Whereas in England, and I used to complain when I was jobless. At certain times in my life, I've been jobless and I've had to sign on. I've had to go onto the UK Gov website and search for jobs and such like. And I used to rip that site apart. I hated it. It was just the whole system. I used to hate systems in England. That was one of the things that really pissed me off, is that it was all these different systems for everything. But in hindsight now, I look back and I'm actually strangely quite thankful for a lot of those systems. I used to be able to just go online onto the Gov website, and I used to be able to fill out forms. Yeah, sometimes it might, like be a bit of a headache and a bit of a pain to do, but at least those systems are there. At least they're in place. Here in Italy, everything's still paperwork. So one of the biggest challenges of moving to Italy is dealing with infamously slow and complex bureaucracy. Whether you're applying for a visa, registering residency, setting up a bank account, or handling taxes, you'll quickly realise that the Italian paperwork is anything but straightforward. Residency permits: if you're planning to stay long term, you're likely to need to apply for a residence permit, which can be lengthy process, and the requirements often vary by region, and appointments at the basically a police station. It can take months to schedule. On top of that, missing just one document, no matter how small, can result in delays, forcing you to restart parts of the process all the way from the beginning. And then we've got taxes and financial bureaucracy. If you plan to work or start a business in Italy, you'll need to navigate Italy's very complex tax system, which can be overwhelming even for the locals. Then we've got the tax office itself isn't always the easiest to deal with, and understanding income taxes, VAT, social security contributions, which can be very confusing. Many expats actually find themselves needing to hire an accountant just to make sense of it all. Now, luckily for me, as I've said before, my girlfriend's actually Italian, and one of her best friends from school is actually an accountant, and thankfully she's an accountant that lived in New York, so she knows English fluently, so she understands, if I need to communicate to her, she understands everything. So that's useful for me. So also as well, we've got things like dealing with the government offices, like simple tasks like getting a tax code, which is called a codice. That's it called. That's it. So luckily, as I say, I've not had to deal with any of that. But if you move to Italy and you don't have anyone that can deal with that for you, then you'd severely struggle basically to try and get that, which you need that for registering for healthcare and changing your address. Sometimes these things require multiple visits to different offices, long waiting times, and mountain of paperwork. Italian government offices they're basically notorious for inconsistent information, meaning one person might tell you something completely different from another, and even with the same department, there's just no one knows what's going on, and none of them care either. Even with my girlfriend, I've seen her before phoning up these offices and such like, trying to sort something out, maybe for my daughter, and someone would say, oh yeah, we don't know anything about that, you need to speak to this person in this department. So they then transfer her to another department, and then they'll tell them something, and then they'll say, oh no, you've got to go to this department, and it's just back and forth. And I'd never experienced anything like that ever when I was in England. It was, a lot of the time, most things were kind of straightforward. I mean, I think back to when my daughter, she was born in London, and I think we needed to get some kind of documents, from what I remember, some documents so she could get her English passport, I think, but it was completely stress-free. I mean, we just went online, found the nearest office, booked it, and I think it said it was going to be about 2 weeks. And at the time, I think we were a bit like, 2 weeks, complaining. But then, as I say, I'm kind of quite thankful, really, because it was only 2 weeks. Here, you might be waiting like 6 to 9 months, maybe even a year sometimes, So yeah, another note that I have here, it says the infamous domani basically means tomorrow in Italian. So they all have the infamous domani mentality. So like, oh, can't deal with it now, come back tomorrow. And if you've taken time off of work, to go to do that, it's just a piss take that they then say that you've got to come back again tomorrow. It means you have to take more time off of work. So unlike the UK, where efficiency is often prioritised, Italy operates on a more relaxed timeline. Processes that should take a few days can stretch into weeks, even months. If a document is missing, you might be told to come back tomorrow, Damani, which in reality could mean next week or next month. So yeah, just a few little other points here. How to survive Italian bureaucracy. Patience is key. Things will take a lot longer than expected, so prepare for delays. Make multiple copies of everything. Always bring extra copies of every document just in case. Hire a professional. A good accountant or lawyer can save you time and stress. Ask locals for advice. Expats and Italians who have been through the system can help. Stay persistent. If one office tells you no, try again with someone else. Dealing with the Italian paperwork is a nightmare and can be exhausting. Once you get past the initial hurdles, life in Italy becomes much smoother, but be prepared, it's all part of the adventure, really. So as an outro, as an example, I mean, a lot of these offices that you have to go to, a lot of the time they're like something like a police station or something. They won't even have seats a lot of the time. If you've got to wait for like an hour or something for someone to deal with your processing, you're basically stood there like an idiot, basically just endless people. And it's not as if all of these people are capable of standing in a line and knowing that everyone, this person's in front of me, this person's behind me. It's just a mess, a shit show. So get used to that sort of thing. So I mean, I don't know how it is in places like Thailand or all these other places where people are running away to, but let's hope that they have chairs and seats that you can at least sit on and take into account that these are like Italy. And when I had to get my identity card, it was absolutely scorchio. It was right in the dead of the summer and we were literally just left standing there in sweltering heat in this office, just waiting for someone who knew what was going on. So yeah, just imagine that. I don't know, Thailand or something. Wonder whether or not they've got a simple iPad there, so you'd come into an office, put your details into an iPad, and then goes to the office, and then a number might come up on a screen. I mean, that's what I recall from when I was in London, when I had to go and get documents for my daughter to do with her passport. We went to somewhere in London, but literally we were greeted. First of all, there was security. He asked us what we needed. He sent us to either A, B or C lane. We then went to an iPad, had to put all the details. It then basically gave us a number, printed out a number, then had a screen. We had plenty of like rows and rows of seats that you could just sit down waiting for your number to come up on the screen. Usually it didn't really take any longer than 10-15 minutes maybe, unless it was really, on a really busy day, like a Monday or a Tuesday, a Friday or something, I don't know. And yeah, literally you would just wait for your number, comes up on the screen, bosh, tells you to go to cubicle this. And as I said at the beginning, that sort of thing back when I was in London used to piss me off, used to really aggravate me. But I'm actually now, having been now here in Italy, I'm more than thankful for that system that we had in London. At least there was actually a system. So that was point number 2. Latest potatoes. What am I chatting about?